There were once 3 travellers who were wandering along a lonely winding road at twilight. In time, the travellers reached a river too deep to wade through and too dangerous to swim across. However, these friends were learned in the magical arts, and so they simply waved their wands and made a bridge appear across the treacherous water. They were halfway across it when they found their path blocked by a hooded figure, and Death spoke to them. He was angry that he had been cheated out of 3 new victims, for travellers usually drowned in the river, but Death was cunning. He pretended to congratulate the 3 travellers upon their magic and said they each earned a prize for having been clever enough to evade him. So the oldest traveller, who was a combative man, asked for a wand more powerful than any in existence. So Death crossed to an elder tree on the banks of the river, fashioned a wand from a branch that hung there, and gave it to the traveller. Then the second traveller, who was an arrogant woman, decided that she wanted to humiliate Death still further and asked for the power to recall others from death. So Death picked up a stone from the river bank and gave it to the second traveller and told her that the stone would have the power to bring back the dead. And then Death asked the third and youngest traveller what she would like. The youngest was the humblest and also the wisest of the travellers, and she did not trust Death. So she asked for something that would enable her to go forth from that place without being followed by Death. And Death most unwillingly handed over his own cloak of invisibility. Then Death stood aside and allowed the last traveller to continue on her way, and she did so, joining the others as they spoke with wonder of the adventure they had had and admiring Death's gifts. In due course, the friends separated, each for their own destination. The first traveller ventured on for a week or more, and reaching a distant village he sought out a fellow wizard with whom he had at once quarrelled. Naturally, with the Eld Wand as his weapon, he could not fail to win the duel that followed, leaving his enemy dead upon the floor. That very night another wizard crept upon the boastful wizard as he lay wine-sodden upon his bed. The thief took the wand and for good measure slit the traveller's throat. And so Death took the combative one for his own. Meanwhile, the second traveller journeyed to her own home where she lived alone. Here she took out the stone that had the power to recall the dead and turned it thrice in hand. To her amazement and delight, the figure of the man she had once hoped to marry before his untimely death appeared at once before her. Yet he was silent and cold, separated from her as though by a veil. Though he had returned to the mortal world, he did not truly belong there and suffered. Finally, the second traveller, driven mad with hopeless longing, killed herself so as truly to join him. And so Death took the arrogant one for his own. But though Death searched for the third traveller for many years, he was never able to find her. It was only when she attained a great age that the youngest of the travellers finally took off the invisibility cloak, and then she greeted Death as an old friend, and went with him gladly as equals departing this life.